The night of June 5, 1944, while the largest armada in history sat poised to storm the beaches of Normandy, a handful of men were already plummeting through the clouds into the heart of occupied France. They were known as Jeds. They didn't arrive with tanks or heavy artillery. They arrived in three-man teams, armed with suppressed weapons, high-speed radios, and a mission that sounded like suicide: to set Europe ablaze from the inside out. This was Operation Jedburgh, the first real cooperation between the British Special Operations Executive and the American Office of Strategic Services. It wasn't just a mission, it was the birth of the modern Special Forces operator. In 1944, the Allies knew that the French resistance, or the Maquis, was a massive but disorganized force. To turn these guerrillas into a professional army, they needed more than just supplies, they needed leaders. The Jedburgh concept was revolutionary. Each team consisted of 3 men, an American or British officer, a French officer to provide local legitimacy, and an enlisted radio operator. This diverse makeup was strategic. It combined the political power of the Allied governments with the military might of professional soldiers. By including a Frenchman on every team, the Allies sent a clear message. This wasn't an occupation, it was a liberation. The selection process was brutal. Candidates were chosen not just for their physical strength, but for their independence of mind and psychological resilience. Training took place in the rugged Scottish Highlands and at Milton Hall in England. These men were pushed to the brink, mastering everything from mountain climbing and skiing to hand-to-hand combat and industrial sabotage. They had to be fluent in French and capable of making life or death decisions hundreds of miles from the nearest friendly unit. This autonomous decision-making is what still sets Special Forces apart today. They weren't just soldiers. They were diplomats, engineers, and assassins rolled into one. The most critical weapon in a Jed's arsenal wasn't their Colt 45, it was the Type B Mark II radio, famously called the Jed set. In the 1940s, communicating with London from a hidden barn in rural France was an engineering miracle. To save time and avoid German detection, teams used one-time pads and pieces of silk, printed with hundreds of 4-letter codes for common phrases. Their secondary mission was to coordinate airdrops. A single Jedburgh team could arrange for dozens of containers packed with Sten guns, explosives, and ammunition to be dropped onto remote fields, effectively arming thousands of resistance fighters overnight. If you're liking the video, please remember to subscribe to Sword and Pen, where military might meets political power. We're uncovering the hidden history of the warriors who paved the way for the elite units of today. Operating behind enemy lines wasn't just about fighting Germans. It was about navigating a political minefield. The French resistance was a fractured landscape of communists, nationalists, and local warlords. General Charles de Gaulle was wary of American and British influence, fearing that a foreign-led resistance would undermine his post-war authority. The Jedburghs had to act as high-level diplomats, unifying these disparate groups under a single Allied strategy. They had to convince local leaders that destroying a bridge in their own backyard was a strategic necessity, even if it meant harsh German reprisals against the civilian population. The impact of the 93 Jedburgh teams was staggering. They derailed German reinforcements, cut vital communication lines, and created such chaos in the rear echelon that the Nazis were forced to divert entire divisions away from the Normandy front. But their greatest legacy came after the war. A former Jedburgh named Aaron Bank took these lessons of unconventional warfare and used them to form the U.S. Army's 10th Special Forces Group in 195 to the legendary Green Berets. The Jedburgh motto, surprise, kill, vanish, became the DNA of every modern special operations unit. They proved that a small, highly trained team with the right tools and the right mindset can achieve what an entire army cannot.